guys, welcome back to the Big Sew Along. I'm Ginny, and today I am talking about some things I've been working on. I do have a quick tutorial for you today, a little bit later. But first, I think in my last video I talked to you guys about this upcoming month. I'm going to be working on some Tina Givens patterns for the fabric store where I work, Haberman's Fabrics in Clawson, Michigan. I am just gonna plug in there. I am currently working there 2 days a week, which is 1 day more than I had been. But now that everybody is getting out and about more, the store is busier. So I have been working not a ton, but twice as much as I was. So that sort of threw me off my game a little bit. But anyways, the fabric store is doing a Tina Givens trunk show towards the end of the month, and I am making a few pieces for that trunk show. However, I am trying to do some changes to the patterns. We have Tina Givens patterns sewn up that are the way the patterns are made, and my boss asked me if I would make some with some of my hacks so people could see variations. So that's what I've been working on. And I don't really have much time for anything else. So I thought I would show you one of them that I have done, which is the Oprah pants. I have made these a couple of times before. I have a pair in black linen that I love and wear all the time. This pair today, I'm going to show you, this fabric is from Haberman's. It's a medium weight, very smooth Italian linen, for whatever that's worth. And I decided that I wanted to add a cuff at the bottom, like a long cuff with buttons on it. So I also added window pockets. But for that, I just use the Diane Erickson pattern, Just Pockets, and there's one in there for that. That's what I used. The cuff, I sort of made up on the fly. So I'm going to show you how I do that right here. Okay, so here's my pant pattern. And this is the length that, this is the hem where the pant usually ends. So I folded my seam allowance, my hem allowance under. And then, I want my cuff to be 4 inches long, but for mine, I want it to be about 2 inches shorter than this, so I'm actually going to cut off, I'm going to fold this up at 6 inches. So I'm just going to make sure my hem is even, and then I'm going to measure up 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, so right here, and you just want to be sure that this is a straight line. We're going to mark it just like that. And now all I'm going to do is fold that under on that line. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut my pants out as I normally would. The only difference is when I cut this out, I'm going to add 5/8 of an inch right along here from my seam allowance at the bottom where we're going to attach our cuff. Everything else we're just going to cut exactly the way this looks right now. And obviously if you're using a pant that has a front and a back, you're going to do the same thing to both the front and the back. To make our cuff pattern, we are going to measure our pant right at the fold. That measures exactly 9 inches. I'm going to say that's 9 inches. Now there's a 5/8 inch seam allowance on this on both sides. So 5/8 and 5/8 is 1 1/4. So we are going to subtract 1 1/4 inches. So this will be 7 3/4 inches is what we need for the top. And let's just establish a center line here first, just so we keep things nice and straight. Our top edge is 7 3/4, which means that the center point is going to be 3 7/8. Okay, so right there. All right. So we're gonna measure down here. I want my cuff to be 4 inches. And 3 5/8 is right here. We'll put that as our center. 7 1/4 is right there. All right, so now all we have to do is attach these sides like this and like this. It's not much of a taper, you can see. We're just going to label this. I'm going to put a couple of notches there. That's the top. This is the hem. This is the inseam. And I'm going to put a notch there. And this is the button band. Okay. For our button band, I'm using a 1-inch button. No, it's not. It's a 7/8 inch button. So I am going to add like half of 7/8 is, I don't know, it's roughly half an inch. So I'm going to add, just for good measure, I'm going to add 3/4 of an inch to the button band side, and that is just for my overlap and my underlap. So it will be like that. And this is our center seam line right here, so you're going to want to put a notch here. And now we just need to add seam allowances all the way around. So I'm going to use 5/8 of an inch. Alright, so this is my seam allowance. We're going to ignore that for a minute. I'm going to put my button right here. So my button is going to sit right here. That means that sitting on that center line, it will be, I don't know, what is that? Like 3/8 of an inch away from the edge. So that's roughly how far you want it. It could be half an inch away. It could be right up to the edge. Whatever it is that you're adding for your overlap and your underlap, just be sure your button is going to sit on it nicely. You don't want your button to hang over the edge. So you wouldn't want to have an underlap that's smaller than your button so that it hangs off. Alright, easy enough. Now we're going to cut 8 of these. We need 4 in your fashion fabric and 4 in your lining fabric. For my pants, I'm using the same fabric for both. So I'm just going to cut 8 in this exact same piece. And just make sure you put a notch on your inseam and something at your top so you know what's what. The next thing we're going to do is just take 2 of our pieces and place them right sides together. And we should have the side with the little notch in it that we marked for our inseam. We're going to sew right along that edge with our 5/8 inch seam allowance, and then we're going to press it open so it looks like that. We're going to do that to 2 pieces. And be sure you have your, be sure you know which is your top and which is your bottom. Because like I said, there's not a huge difference on this between the top and the bottom. But that's the top. And then we're going to just place 2 of these pieces. Once we've done the center seam, we're going to place those 2 right sides together. Just like that. And we're going to sew all the way around this edge. Side, bottom, side. With our 5/8 inch seam allowance. So it looks like that. And now all we're going to do with this is clip our corners. I am not putting interfacing in mine. But we are going to put buttonholes and buttons on this, so if you feel like you want interfacing, you should do that before you sew these together, obviously. And you're going to want to sew it on these edges. That's where your buttonholes and buttons are going to go. Alright, once we get those trimmed off, we're gonna trim the rest of our seam allowance down, press those open, and then just turn this to the right side. And you're gonna do that twice because we have 2 pant legs. So now we have our cuffs sewn together, and all I did was edge stitch all the way around the edges, like around here. I left this side, the top edge is raw, but I did baste it together just so it's not flopping all over. Now mine aren't going to matter because they're exactly the same, but make sure that you've got your fronts, one front on each leg, because the front is the one that's getting the buttonholes and you want it to fold over to the back. So just be sure you have one for each side and you're not doing them both exactly on the same legs. So for mine, I have a 5/8 of an inch seam allowance right here. I'm just going to mark this with a pin. And now, to place my buttons, I'm going to have 3 buttons. So I'm going to fold this edge, the hemmed edge, up to that seam line and just put a little crease. You may need to mark this with a pin. I'm using linen so it shows really easily. And then I'm going to do this again. I'm going to fold this crease to this pin. And I'm going to fold the hem to this crease. And that should give us 3 separate places, for pretty evenly spaced places for our buttons. I think those are going to be too close together for me. 1, 2, no, I think they're okay. And 3. Okay, so my buttons are going to look just like that. Actually, a little more like that. And I am going to go ahead and make sure these are centered. That little notch there is where our center is, so they need to be even with that. Just going to mark the centers of these with a pin. Actually, I think I'm going to use a little chalk. So this one's going to be right here. This one's going to be right here. And this one's going to be right here. So if I place my buttons right on top there, just like that, I can see if you're making your buttonholes up and down, just mark the edge where you want your buttonhole to start. I'm going to make mine side to side. So my buttonhole is going to start here, right there, and it's going to be the same distance for each one, and that is, oh shoot, I'm going to say it's 3/8 of an inch from the edge. And that third one is right here. So now I'm just going to go make my buttonholes on both of my pant legs, and I'll be back. Okay, so now we're just going to make sure we have 2, make sure the front is opposite on both of your cuffs. Like mine is not. Let's be this way. There we go. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is take our cuff and we're going to match up those little notches at the top edge. I'm going to match those up like that. And I'm going to pin that right there. Before we do anything else though, just double check to make sure your hem is even. Right along here. That looks pretty good. I'm actually just going to put another pin in there, and one in here. And now I'm going to go baste this just right across the top here. And once we get that basted, it's going to look like that. I'm going to leave these extra pins in here for the moment. And we're going to take our pants. And I think for this, I'm going to turn mine inside out. Just going to double check and make sure I have this on the right leg. This one goes on this leg. So this is going to be, turn my pant leg inside out. And I am going to match up my notch again, right there, with the side seam of my pant, right there. And we're going to pin that. And then we're going to match the other seam up with the inseam up, the inseam of our cuff. We're going to match up to the inseam of our pant leg, like that. And now all we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and sew that on there with our 5/8 inch seam allowance, and then we're going to finish that edge any way you like. Once we have our cuff on and it's all pressed, I have the seam allowances, I'll show you from the inside. Have the seam allowances pressed upwards towards the top of the pants. Now on mine, I just serged this edge and left it. You can bind this edge, or you can finish it some other way, however you like. I would actually like to stitch this down, so it would be a row of stitching around the top here that would hold that seam allowance in place, or at the very least I would do a stitch in the ditch, like right along in this seam, also to hold that seam allowance up. Unfortunately, as you can tell from my buttonholes, I have run out of thread in this light gray color, and I really don't want to put stitching around here. In this dark color, I may in fact end up taking these buttonholes out and redoing them in light gray, although I'll probably just leave them at this point. Anyways, once you get that sewn in and finished however you like up here, all you have to do is put your buttons on. Yeah, and you can see, I actually really love the way these came out. Like I said, this pair is linen, but I do have a piece of gold, not gold, but like marigold or mustard kind of colored heavy silk that I got from the fabric store. Has like a little sale section of older fabrics, and they're all either $5 or $10 a yard. And of course, because I'm at the fabric store twice a week, I'm like, you know, looking all the time. So I found this piece of like mustardy gold colored heavy like Duchess satin, and I washed it, and it's really super cool. So I think I'm gonna make another pair of these exact pants with the button cuff and everything for like a little more fallish weather. And I think when I do that, I will maybe do a tutorial on the pocket for you guys too, so I can show you how I do that. Okay, so that's my Oprah pant. What else? The other thing I have to show you, I did make a couple of other things. Unfortunately, I wore them and now they're in the laundry. I know that happens all the time here, but I wear my stuff. What can I say? When I get it out of the laundry, my washing machine also broke last week. So it's fixed now, but it was out of commission for a week. So now I have to work through my backlog of laundry. And once I get my things washed, I'll show you guys a picture of it. So I don't know why I was saying that. So I made a few other things. One of which was a Meg dress. Now I've made the Meg pants a couple times before. For some reason, I don't think I've ever made the Meg tunic or dress. I don't know why, because I really like it and I've always really liked it. I'll show you some pictures here. I did not change much on this dress. The only real change I made was the Meg is supposed to have a tie on the shoulder, and I eliminated that. And I really like the way this dress fits. This fabric, by the way, is a cotton voile, and it's a silk shantung trim that I used at the bottom, like a leftover piece of silk shantung. And then the bias strips around the neck and the armholes are also the silk shantung. And just so you know, that has been washed a few times. When I washed it and just throw it in the dryer, the silk is a little wrinkly. It's not really more wrinkly than the cotton, but for photographs, because like who wants to see a wrinkly mess, I ironed that beforehand. But just so you know, it washes just fine, the two fabrics together. Okay, now for things I would change, because that is supposed to have a tie on the shoulder. It's got like a pretty close neckline. On my next one, I'm going to lower that a little bit, because it's not too close. I can get it over my head, but I can't get it over my head with my glasses on. So that means to me that's a tiny bit small. Although it does fit nicely, maybe just a teeny bit bigger. The reason I don't want to do the tie is, for any of you guys who know me, I started sewing a lot of my own clothes primarily because I'm a pretty avid knitter and crocheter, and I have a lot of sweaters and knit tops and things like that I've made over the years, and I make a lot of clothes that are sleeveless so that I can wear them. I can wear my knits. But you can't really do that with a giant bow on your shoulder, because then it just looks like, you know, you're a pirate and you forgot you had a parrot on your shoulder or something kooky like that. Anyways, so I will probably lower that neckline a little bit. Just a tad though. And then what else? Of the pockets, you know, I like a good patch pocket, but I'm not crazy about it on this dress. It's a cool shape. Part of the reason is that I actually cut my fabric so that I had a frog on each pocket and they were facing each other. But when I went to put it together, I realized that I cut them upside down. So that's part of the reason that I don't like the pockets. But also, I don't always like the way patch pockets look. I mean, I guess if you just take your time and make them like, and do your stitching a little more neatly, then that would help. I'm a little bit lazy about that. In any case, I'm thinking for my next Meg, I might do an inseam pocket, and I might do it that, the way that Marcy Tilton does a lot of hers, and I think we've done that a couple of times on the Big Sew Along, where there is no, there's only one pocket piece that gets sewn to the front on the inside. Anyways, so that's what I'm thinking about for my next one. In terms of my next video, I'm not really sure what it's going to be yet, guys, because I have to come up with another hack of another Tina Givens pattern. So we'll see what that is next week. Alright guys, thank you so much for stopping by. As always, I really do appreciate your time. Please, if you like this video, hit like and subscribe. Share it with any of your sewing friends, and come back and see me again next Tuesday. Happy sewing!